Consider donating to help cover our running costs and future projects by visiting www.muslimcentral.com/donate.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran. Long time ago I remember reading a statement, and I think it was a beautiful statement in regard to the relationship between a man, his mother, and his wife. The statement goes like this: a man is given birth, or a man is born twice in his life. The first time by a woman who gives him his life. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls. And the second time by a woman who gives him her life. So the first time he is born by that woman who gives him his life. Who that woman is, Imam? That's his mother. And the second time he is born by that woman who gives him her life. That's why they say, behind every great man, there's a woman who's helping and building his life. However, I want to make a disclaimer. I truly believe in that statement to be true. Still though, the truth of the matter is that there's one woman who can really give him both. And it's the only woman who really have given him both. That's his mother. She gave him his life and her life. We all know how much mothers sacrifice their lives for the sake of their children. They're willing to stay up all night and then continue the rest of the day struggling and fighting and with your sickness and with your disease and with your grumpiness and with your lack of sleep and food and so on. And they're willing and they cry for you. Subhanallah, they put so much effort. They put so much effort seeking your comfort, not theirs. The only comfort they get for themselves is when they see you very comfortable. When you get married, they're also so excited and so happy for you that they see you happy. They're so happy that they see you happy. And now they're handing this responsibility over to the second woman. This is now the second woman in your life, would be your wife. Subhanallah, I always joke about this, in my classes, in my lectures, about men. And I said this to the lady. Ladies, you have no idea, but when you first get married, when you get married, that's when you got your first baby. You only call him husband. Because indeed, he becomes your first child. You treat him in the same way. He needs attention. He sometimes start acting weird. He starts acting grumpy. He just doesn't want to eat, doesn't want to do that. It's subhanAllah, you got it. It's part of the package. You get married, you got your first baby. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So from that sense, I believe that yes, women, they also give birth to this man. They make him the way he is to become a successful leader, a successful da'iyah, a successful imam, a successful teacher, a successful engineer, a successful doctor. Wallahi, without backing of your family, you won't be the way you are today. Alhamdulillah, your mother, she made an amazing job in bringing you up to one level. But then it's really a competition and race. So she's handing it over to the next woman right now in your life. Ya Ikhwa, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam one day, he was asked about, al-Jannah basically, and women and mothers. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he asked the man to go and serve his parents. And the man wants to go for jihad fi sabilillah. And the Prophet asked him, he says, is any of your parents still alive? He goes, yes, Ya Rasulullah, they are. His mother. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, go and serve her. Go and serve your mother. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ ثَمْ. Go and please her. Make her smile the way you made her cry. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ ثَمْ. The gates of paradise are just right there, underneath your feet. And that's why they say, Al-Jannatu tahta aqdam al-ummahat, that paradise, Al-Jannah, is underneath the feet of these mothers. No one can really substitute your mother for you. When you look at real life, you see that just like the mother struggles with her child, also the wife would struggle with her husband. And the husband would struggle with his wife. SubhanAllah, we have a situation here in Jama'ah. What is the dilemma that we have here? I have people coming to me complaining and saying, Ya Sheikh, my wife, she wants me to do this and that, which my mom's not happy with. As if she's asking me to cut ties with my mom. And sometimes the woman comes to me and she complains that her husband, he doesn't want her to talk to her parents. He doesn't want her to visit her parents either. And subhanAllah, I say, A'udhu Billah, this is a jama'ah, qat'u rahm. You're cutting ties between relatives. And because of that, a husband and wife are put in a very difficult situation, choosing between their family and their spouse, who be just together for a few months or maybe for a few years. We have a situation I would like to share with you, a few scenarios that I'm sure that we all have people around us, perhaps maybe people that you know, who go through these examples. Number one, this is the first scenario. A man who has one other sibling. He's a man. He has one brother or two brothers. He had no sisters. Meaning he had no experience dealing with women. Just boys in the family. And he sees his parents grow old. Now that they reach their age, this man gets married right now. So he wants his wife to serve his parents for him. He gets married only to provide service for his parents. There is nothing wrong with that. But demanding it from a woman who is not their daughter, that is too much. Unless you do it with love. Unless you do it with love, with passion and compassion, that becomes a situation. The woman, she resists. And it becomes a big issue. And they start fighting over this issue. And the man tells his wife, it's my mom first, otherwise you have no place. Another scenario. A woman who has no brothers. That's another mom. She only had sisters. So she only knows how to deal with women. She was never exposed to men previously except her father. And maybe other people, very little electricity, because she doesn't know how to deal with men. She gets married. And when she wants her husband to live with her parents, because no one else is going to take care of her parents. He's a man, he can take care of his own parents. But my parents, who is there for them? I'm a lady. So therefore I need to work. And if you're not going to help me help my parents, I'm going to have to work outside the house to provide income for my parents who are getting old right now. The man starts now getting stressed out because of this new situation. Whether he acts with love, with passion and compassion, and he embraces her parents like his, or he might resist so much and create so much fitna for them in the family. A third scenario. A man and a woman who get married and they live far away from the parents. There is a family on their own, away from their parents. Their parents, they have no one else but these kids. They hear that his wife is getting pregnant. Their daughter, she just gave birth to a baby. And they don't have the pleasure of seeing their grandchild growing in front of their eyes. They put so much pressure on the couple. So everyone starts pulling towards their direction. And if they don't solve the problem, they get into actually divorce cases and so much fitna. So these are many scenarios actually, just examples of many scenarios. And by the way, what I told you here, these are real scenarios. These are real scenarios that I've dealt with. And these are real people that they go through so much troubles because of these things. But subhanAllah, usually when it comes to a wife is basically upfront, when he engaged to his wife, the first thing he said to her, he said, listen, my mother first. Which is true. Do you guys deny that? He says, my mother always comes first. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, Ummuk, thumma ummuk, thumma ummuk. 3 times he said, your mother, your mother, your mother. What do you think this man is telling his wife? He's just trying to solve priorities right. But he doesn't understand that he's telling his wife, you have no place for you in my heart. He doesn't understand that. You might be right, but the way you express these things is absolutely wrong. You might be so right about showing passion and compassion to your parents who reach their age. There is no doubt in that. But the way these young men and women, when they get married, the way they express this love to their parents, or even their spouse and to their parents, causes so much fitna, jealousy, and troubles for them. You guys need to be smart. And I'm here talking about educated young men and women. They're supposed to be in school. they went to college and they went to graduate school. You're talking about at least 6-8 years of formal academic education, but very, very poor social skills. Very poor social skills. They were not trained to do that. They haven't gone through any formal training to prepare themselves for marriage. That's why when it comes to the parents and wives, they have no idea how to handle this issue. SubhanAllah, see, I've seen also examples. A girl who sees her mother-in-law as a wife in the relationship. She got married to this guy. The guy is so innocent. Her mother-in-law is so innocent woman. But I don't know, it's just that like she grew up to live her fantasy of getting married to this guy. And now she got, mashallah, what she was dreaming about. Now she wants to build that fantasy over the clouds. But there is a woman always pulling that child, down there. It becomes rivalry between that young lady and the mother-in-law. They fight over this issue. And sometimes she corners that guy and she says, listen, your mother, she always does this, she always says that, blah, blah, blah. And the guy eventually, what do you want me to do? You tell me, this is my mother, what do you expect me to do? The problem is that most of these ladies, they say, I don't know, it's your problem. So basically, you solve it, not me. If he is responsible to solve the problem, do not create it in the first place then. Don't make me a problem that I'm responsible to solve when you started it first. We don't balance these issues. But also, we have another example. A guy who also gets married only to earn enemies who are supposed to be his in-laws. Her father becomes his enemy. Why? Because it cost me so much in the wedding money. He had to pay $50,000, $10,000, $5,000, and now he's keeping, interfering in the relationship, so he earns an enemy. Although the man is supposed to earn a new father-in-law. But he's unfortunately making him an enemy to himself. And that's also put so much stress on the girl. The guy always brings this issue up in front of her. Your father said, your father did, your mother said, your mother did. And she just, eventually she's feeling so now insecure. So she comes to him, she goes, what do you want me to say? What am I going to do? Listen, if you don't like it, let's just finish it right now. So they put so much pressure and so much trouble among themselves and for themselves. Yeah, there are so many differences between parents and spouses. I would like to share with you some of these differences. Major issues that we have in this scenario, example I showed you. Number one. The number one issue that I have over here. Spouses usually copy their parents' model of motherhood or parenthood in this case. So they always copy the model that they have lived with and in. That's the model of their parents. So what they do, they're comfortable with the relationship they have seen. They've seen their parents, even though they have some bumps, some ups and downs, but they survived for the past 30 years. That's an amazing achievement, yeah. They deserve an award for this. So they must be successful. So whatever they did, I'll do it. They copy the model that might not be as successful to them, as it's supposed to. And I believe that I keep telling these young men and women, listen, don't copy your father's model into your marriage. Take his wisdom, take his experience, but don't copy it. Because what worked for him might not work for you. And subhanAllah, I said, if your father married your wife, I would think the marriage would not go as well as it was between your father and your mother. But this worked for them, so do not copy the model of your parents completely 100%. Number two, the romantic love and the practical love. Women, they come to marital relationship with this, again, fantasy of having romantic love. They want everything to be rosy and flowery and chocolatey and all this stuff and so on. But the guys sometimes they have a lot of practicality in it. Okay, we're done with the wedding, we have 2 months of honeymoon, Bismillah, let's go back to business. And the women, they want to continue with the honeymoon forever. They deserve it, they ask for. Wallahi, they deserve it. But still, sometimes because of the culture, the upbringing over here, they have seen so much fantasy on TV, and fairy tales, and all these things. Now they want to build that in their own houses. How many guys, how many young girls have seen planning for her wedding party to be, when we calculate that, will be actually over maybe $50,000. 2 parties, 3 parties for 7 days, perhaps for 7 nights, and you have all the different colors, all different clothes and dresses, and you just do all that stuff, subhanAllah. When you look at this, la ilaha illallah. I heard about a wedding, I'm not mentioning one in what city was that. One wedding, talking about Muslim wedding, you know. Muslim wedding that cost the people over $4 million. They brought the bride and the groom in 2 different helicopters. I guess they have got the traffic jam there. So cars would not work. They had to use some creativity. They brought them flying in. $4 million spent in one night. La ilaha illallah. So this basically fantasy world. Same thing when it comes to the practical version of the man, when it comes to marriage, he tries to move on afterwards, wants to be more practical. He calculates everything by penny and dollar and so on, and that creates so much trouble between them. I've seen so many people break up the engagement because of the dollar and the penny. Why? When it comes to the shadi hall, he wants to pay $10,000. Her family say $25,000. Okay, we're going to invite 400 people. They say no, 150 more. So they fight over these issues. Why? It's between the fantasy and the reality. And that's why they get so much actually troubles. Who is pushing all of this? Sometimes parents are involved. So his parents, they want to limit the number, and his love to his parents wants him to obey them. Okay, we'll do that. Her parents say no, we want to invite 50 more people from our family outside, and that also creates fitna between them. So you have the love between your parents, between your parents, and also your spouse. Number 3, what I call territorial war between the wife and the mother-in-law. How's that? You know, when the guy gets married, the girl, she believes that, alhamdulillah, I became part of the family. And she deserved it. She became part of the family. When she comes into the house of the in-laws, she feels that she's part of the family. So she wants to go to the kitchen to help out, grab this, fold this, open the fridge and so on. But suddenly, she sees that some resistance from the mother-in-law. Like, this is my territory. Particularly, if they get married and they live with their parents. Now that's some situation. You get married, you live with your parents, your wife wants to prepare a breakfast for you and her. That's her first breakfast. She wants to show her talents. But she wakes up, she goes down to the kitchen, she finds her mother-in-law, mashallah, she was up from 3 o'clock in the morning. And she prepared the breakfast. And everything is ready. Oh, mashallah, good morning, ahla wa salam. Okay, come guys and eat. And she wants to feed her son to be healthy, inshallah ta'ala, and stay healthy. But the girl, after 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, then what happens? Becomes a big issue. She's not allowed even to open the fridge. She can't do this, she can't do that. All of this was happening exactly in territorial war. The lady, she wants to throw her territories over this guy, and the mother also, she wants to keep her territory over this guy, and they overlap in one area. Outside that, they're, alhamdulillah, they're good. Inside that territory where they overlap, they fight over the guy. Same thing might happen between the husband and his father-in-law, this is mother-in-law. Territorial war. The lady, she wants to keep, relations with her daughter. And the guy is also putting his territory around her as well. And there will be all so much tension because of that. She is ripped between her husband and her mother. And he is also between his mother and his wife. When excessive love, number 4, when excessive love to one party causes so much bias and injustice. Love can really cause so much bias and injustice. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the wife of Al-Aziz, in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, how was she described in terms of his love? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the ladies, when they were gossiping her, speak about her relationship with her slave man, they said, قالوا شغفها حبا. شغفها حبا. In the Arabic language, الشغف is that very thin screen tissue that covers the heart. So basically, her love for him is penetrating the heart between that screen and the muscles of the heart. So there is no escape. It's right there. There is no escape for it. So that excessive love might lead to so much bias and injustice. Excessive love to the parents might cause injustice to your spouse. And excessive love to your spouse can cause big damage to the relationship between you and your parents. This is for both men and women. And number 5, when a spouse is put in a position to choose one side. Imagine yourself in that position. Your husband is telling you, listen, it's whether me or your mom. What would you say? Most women, that's what the man expects his wife to say. It's you, my dear husband. As if he's mashallah sultan. And I can't choose anyone else besides you. That would expect his wife to say. But living in the 21st century, living in America, ya jama'ah, assalamu alaikum, how are you doing? Her culture has changed. There's a huge cultural shift over here. If the guy wants to corner his wife, says, whether me or your mom, the girl willingly would say, you know what? Assalamu alaikum, you call my dad. And she will do it. And a difficult situation like this. Because the man, he thought that he's the man, and he needs to force, his opinion on his wife, so he acts in that manner. It might have worked maybe 50, 60 years ago, or maybe 25 years ago. So I count myself among that crowd. But after that, it changed. It would shift. There was a huge cultural shift to Jama'ah, and you have to prepare yourself for this change. Now I'm not saying this is right or wrong right now, as much as explain to you what is there already, and what's going on, and what is happening. So how to deal with this? How are we going to deal with that situation? Here's my suggestion, and I have it actually in 3 major areas. Number 1, the first area. Do not substitute your parents for your spouse, and vice versa. You know what does that mean? Your wife can never be your mother, and your husband can never be your father. Similar to that, look at the other side, it's exactly the same thing. That means your father can never be your husband, and your mother can never be your wife. Don't try to substitute that. Many men, that's what they do. And even women, they want to do that substitution. They try to make replacement. It doesn't work like this. So you cannot treat your husband like you treat your father. Your father, basically, if you say to your dad, Dad, please, he might say, okay, honey, do it. Your husband might start calculating things differently. And your mother, when you come to your mom, just for me, please. She would do it. She would sacrifice her life for you. But your wife, she might say, why? So if you try to substitute that image of your mom and your dad in the relationship, you create problem for yourself. Your mom is going to always remain your mom, and your wife. Keep them separately. Put that in your mind separately, otherwise you're going to always create troubles. And we see that when it comes to the subject of how the husband is actually at a very high level, in terms of his position, from the wife. It depends how much love they have for each other. One day the Prophet ﷺ was coming back from the battle of Uhud after they lost almost over 70 shaheed martyrs. When they were coming back, some ladies they received them, expecting their husbands, their brothers, their parents, their fathers. And a woman was received, and she was looking among the crowd to see where's this family. So they told her, your father, Fulan, he passed away. She said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Your brother also died. She goes, Inna lillahi la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Then when she was told, and your husband, he's lost also. He died. That's when she started crying and wailing, and basically she's running away, crying. The Prophet looked at her and he says, SubhanAllah, Inna ba'la al-mar'ati minha labi makan. The position of the husband for a woman is so special. I mean, she can be patient losing her father because she expects that. She expects to lose her brother, but her husband is different. So do not force your wife to substitute to that level where it becomes complete transformation completely. Keep it separate. Number 2, a parent or your parent were the reason for your existence, not your spouse. You need to keep that in mind. You cannot substitute them because your parents were the reason behind your existence in this world by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not your spouse. No wonder when a man came to Abdullah ibn Umar al-Khattab in Mecca during the Hajj season, and he was carrying his mother on his back during the Hajj, performing the entire Hajj season, carrying his mother on his back. And I thought that only happens in stories of Allah. I saw that with my own eyes. I saw that with my own eyes. Wallahi, I was so proud of this man. He was old himself. Maybe he was in his 50s perhaps. And he was carrying this woman. Allah Akbar, she is so old age, maybe in her 80s. And her body and her muscles shrunk so much, she was very tiny. And she was on his back. And he was holding her, walking distance, not driving, not riding even. From Mina, going towards Arafah. Allah, we were walking together. I was walking next to him. I was so proud of him. I looked at him to see where is he from. He was from Algeria, Aljazair. And I was so proud of him. I said, Wallahi, one day I said, Jazakallah khair. So Wallahi, you embarrassed us already. And I thought that was what happens in the story. With all of this, when the man came to Abdullah ibn Umar al-Khattab and he said to him, he said, I did the Hajj like this. Did I pay her back what she did to me? قال ولا نفع. Not even one blow when she was delivering you. Not even one of these blows when she was delivering you. Whatever you do, you will never substitute her. So you put your mom in that level of respect. That when it comes to your wife, she's also another special person in your life. Yes, you might say, I can replace my wife. But yeah, you will never replace the pain that's going to be causing you because of what you did. You might say, I can get over it. Wallah, it's not easy. We're human beings. We're bashar. We're not stones or rocks. There will always be traces of pain that you've injured someone, you hurt someone. So therefore, you put each in their position and they deserve respect and love. Also, number 3, remember that they both can be your gate towards Al-Jannah. They both can be a gate to Al-Jannah. Your mother, the Prophet says, فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ تَمْ. Paradise is just right there under their feet. When it comes to your wife, the Prophet ﷺ, to your spouse, the Prophet ﷺ is talking about for men right now. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم خيركم خيركم لأهله. The best among all of you are those who are best to their wives. You know what does that mean? When the Prophet ﷺ speaks about al-khayriyya, which means being so good, that means that you are so pure, you possess the qualities of al-Jannah. When the Prophet gives you that certificate of being good, what does that mean? You are from people of al-Jannah. Actually deserve it. Now, I heard some when philosophers actually saying words about that issue. One of them is an Arabic philosopher. He says, I love my life passionately. He says, I love my life so much. You know why? You might say, what does he love about his life? He says, I love my life so much because I'm ashamed of the tears of my mom if I die during her lifetime. I'm so ashamed of the tears of my mom if I die during her lifetime, that she will cry. And that's why I'm always careful with my life. I don't want to die causing pain to my mom. La ilaha illallah. You don't own it anyway. But he's so careful what he does, so he doesn't want to cause any pain to his mom. La ilaha illallah. Another, which is very famous actually statement by Napoleon. He said the woman who rocks the crib of the baby with her right hand, she rocks the entire world with her left hand. Basically, she builds these men who will come to rock the entire world afterwards. I mean, these men, they grow up after they were raised by these women, their mothers. Ibadallah. But number 4, I want you to understand why you cannot substitute your parents with your spouse and vice versa. Because the love of and the love for your parents is given. And the love of your spouse is earned. You know, regardless, wallahi, as bad as you can be, your parents will always love you. Your parents will always love you. I had a situation when, nasallahu al-afiyah, someone's child chose to leave Islam. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. He chose to leave Islam. His parents remained for more than a year or so, going after him. And after that, they come to me and talk to me about it. And I could tell you that they still love their child. They're so hurt, so guilty, so painful situation for them, but they just cannot stop loving their child. Look at Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh alayhi salam, his son, Allah says about him, إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. He's not good for you. Still he says, Ya bunayya, come back. Please, come with us. My dear son, come. He was to the last minute, he had this passion to zakah to his child. Your wife, your spouse, your husband cannot get without little bit of money. If you act good, you are so good, mashallah. If you act bad, Allah musta'an, no food. You sleep on the couch this night. So this is absolutely two different things. Don't just substitute your parents with your spouse and vice versa. Next therefore, your spouses. Your spouse, this is something for the spouse right now. Even though, just like I said, all this is given for the parents, but your spouses can give you things your parents cannot. So put your spouse in the right position as well. Number one thing that your parents cannot give you and your spouse can give you is parenthood. You cannot be a father or a mother without your spouse, can you? So they give you the fulfillment of being a parent. When you get married, your wife, she gives birth to the child that's going to call you dad. And your husband is going to give birth to help you give birth to that child who will call you mom. So they give you this. They deserve that respect. And they become now the parent of your child. They give you intimacy. Just something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made one of the miracles in this life for you. And they give you that fulfillment that you cannot find with your parents. Yes, you might find this beautiful fulfillment with your parents. But sometimes we are human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He created the spouse for ourselves for what? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So that you go and find peace and tranquility with them. The second area I would like to discuss with you. Do not compare your spouse to your parents. Do not compare them to your parents. How is that? Number one, your parents live their time and your spouse live his or hers. Which means, you know, your parents are the product of their time and their culture. And your wife or your husband is also the product of his or her time and his or her culture. No wonder, Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, he advised parents. He said, أَدِّبُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ لِزَمَانِهِمْ لَا لِزَمَانِكُمْ. When you raise your children, you better teach them to prepare them for their time, not your time. He said, لِأَنَّهُمْ خُلِقُوا لِزَمَانٍ غَيْرِ زَمَانٍ. Because they were created to live a time other than yours. So do not compare. Try your best always to prepare them for that child that they will see in the future. Number two, your parents' wisdom is so valuable. Your parents' wisdom is so valuable. Is also so thrilling. As human beings, we would love to achieve things, right? You know, remember when you're a baby and if you have a child, you know that. You tell your child, don't go up the table, don't climb the table. The child will tell you, why? Say, because if you do that, you might trip and fall and you're going to hurt yourself. Guess what you've done to the child right now? You give them an idea. Let me go up and see how it happens. And I want to say, what does that mean? And exactly, they want challenges in their lives. That's how we live. Yes, we can learn from the wisdom of the experience. But again, what worked for them, which is my third point actually here, is that what really worked for your parents might not work for you. So therefore, not everything that your father or your mom advise in regard to your relationship with your spouse might work for you. Same thing. Not everything your wife tells you is a smart idea. Whatever husband tells you about your parents may not be the right idea either. So you need to understand that there are differences, but that doesn't mean to completely neglect the entire legacy of our parents and think that we're smarter than our parents. No, we're not. They learn through a lot of experiences, therefore. we can benefit from. But at the same time, we need to leave them some room to make some judgments, to fit their times. And the third area, my husband, inshallah ta'ala, here, is love them equally. Love them equally, meaning your spouse and your parents, but differently. You love them equally, but differently. You know what does that mean? To give you an example. I give an example. Which one is heavier? A ton of steel or a ton of cotton? Which one is the man? Which one is heavier? A ton of steel or a ton of cotton? Are you sure? Isn't steel heavier? Steel is heavier, right? But the ton of steel and the ton of cotton, in terms of weight, they're the same. How about the size? Which one is greater in size? The cotton. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to your spouse. Love them equally, but differently. So your love is so heavy for both, but it covers different areas. Depends on whom you're dealing with your spouse and with your parents. So number one, the love of your parents should be greater than the love for your spouse. Do you guys have any doubt about this? The love of your parents should be greater than the love for your spouse. There is no doubt about it. Because that's what the Prophet ﷺ said. When the man came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, man ahaqqu an-nas bi husni sahabati, who's entitled to the best companionship? The Messenger ﷺ said, your mother first. Then the man said, okay, Ya Rasulullah, who's next? The Prophet said, your mother. The man got surprised because it's the same answer, right? He said, Ya Rasulullah, who's next? He said, your mother. After the third time, the man realized, oh, so he was repeating that on purpose. Then he just, as if he said, I got it, Ya Rasulullah. Now who's next? Then he said, your father. So they come. Your spouse didn't come there. It will come next. However, when I say that, but that doesn't mean that you completely, classify in that fashion. Just like I said, that love is heavy in both areas, but it's done differently. For a woman, the obedience to her husband is greater than her obedience to her parents. Look at the word. What did I say to you now? Obedience. Did I say love? Did I say love? I didn't. Because that's what the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded women. When it comes to your love, you can love your parents more than you love your spouse. But when it comes for the sake of the family, your obedience to your husband becomes more important. For the sake of the family, your obedience to your parent becomes very important. You might say, but how can a woman obey someone she doesn't love? Well, that's when we put love into practice in real life. That's how things sometimes work. Some people, they're just together for the sake of the children, not for the sake of their own self. I'm not saying this is mashallah an amazing and beautiful experience for marriage, but some people, they choose to do it. They're willing to sacrifice so many things for their children. That's why they're parents. That's why we love our parents. So it might happen in real life. Number 3, do not compare that love, which means love your parents like parents should be loved. And love your spouse like a spouse should be loved. If you start loving your husband like you do with your father, you're going to confuse your husband. He's going to be confused. That's why you want your husband, not your dad. But sometimes women, they just cannot make these, they don't do these lines. So they start basically merging these images. I mean, they treat their father, of course, in a different way. The way they discuss matters with them as if they think it's given. Because like my father, if my father asks him for anything, he will do it for me. But yeah, your husband has other responsibilities differently right now. And that's why I said your parents, their love for you and your love, but it's given by virtue of giving birth to you. They've earned it already. But your spouse needs to earn that. So your husband needs to earn your love. He needs to behave well so that we love him. That's how it works. Same thing, a woman to earn the love of her husband, she needs to be nice in that relationship. And number 4, by the way, subhanAllah, that brings me to the ayah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the difference between the love for our parents or our spouses. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about birrul walidayn? Being dutiful to your parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. That you lower to your parents, you lower to them, جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ. This is the Arabic expression, the wing of humility. The wings of humility out of mercy. That's how you treat them. You basically don't act arrogantly. You always act in humility when it comes to your parents. But when it comes to the spouse, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the spouse, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمَا مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. He placed between you mawadda, which is that kind love, and rahmah, mercy. Mercy was mentioned in both examples, for the parents and for the spouse. However, with the parents, there's humility, there's humbleness. You show that weakness. That they just earned it. You cannot be arrogant. But with your spouse, it's love, and they need to earn it. So that's completely different. There are two different roles in your life. Therefore, I would say the success of your children is the continuation of your success. Wallahi, if you have successful children, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. That is, I believe, it's the legacy of your parents in you. Because in Surah Al-Kahf, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about that man, who the jidar was about to fall apart. He said, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. Their father was righteous man. You know the Mufassirin, some of the Mufassirin, they say there wasn't their immediate father. No, the ayah speaks about their seventh great-grandfather. Look how far that goodness can be traced in the family line. So that's the continuation of the success of the family. And finally, I conclude with this statement, with this actually, that love your spouse. For both of you, for the men, love your wife. For the ladies, love your husband. Just love your spouse. Because wallahi, your children will learn from you how to love both their parents and their spouses. So don't fail them twice. Don't fail your children twice. If you love your spouse, that's what you teach your children. To see loving parents and see loving husband and wife.